Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive realization that almost all of us hit at some point. Your job is meant to be a supporting pillar, not your entire identity. If you've ever felt like work is completely consuming you, or if you've been relying on it to deliver 100% of your happiness, you're definitely not alone. We're going to unpack the psychology and the economics of why that approach almost always leads straight to burnout, and more importantly, how to redesign your relationship with work so it actually funds and respects your real life.
So let's jump right in with a question that might sting just a little bit. Think about it. Why didn't that last raise make you happy? So many of us spend years, sometimes even decades, chasing a target salary, a promotion, or that elusive dream job. But what actually happens when we get it? Once that dream becomes reality, give it a few weeks and it just feels like an ordinary Tuesday. You end up sitting in your car feeling the exact same emptiness you did before the promotion.
Well, it all comes down to a psychological trap called hedonic adaptation. Basically, your brain is wired to quickly reset extra income or elevated status as your new normal baseline. If your happiness depends entirely on reaching some future financial milestone, you're essentially trapping yourself on an endless treadmill. You'll spend your whole life chasing a moving target, simply because your brain will always demand more just to feel that same high.
And honestly, this treadmill traps all of us, no matter what kind of work we do. If you're a freelancer, the trap is that time equals money, which leads to this intense guilt whenever you try to rest. For business owners, it's passion burnout and feeling responsible 24/7. But for the office worker, it's something called identity fusion. That's when your corporate title literally becomes your sole measure of self-worth. When a job becomes your entire identity, a bad day at the office inevitably ruins your actual life. So, how do we break this cycle?
That brings us to our first shift in mindset, the philosophy of the good enough job.
To get off the treadmill, we've got to completely redefine what a career actually does for us, adopting what's known as the rule of 30 to 40%. Listen, a job shouldn't be asked to give you everything. It can't provide all your social connection, your total spiritual purpose, and your absolute identity. Instead, try thinking of work as fulfilling roughly 35% of your existence. That leaves a massive 65% slice for your actual life, your passions, and your energy.
The crucial takeaway here is that a good enough job absolutely isn't about settling. It's purely about functionality. It acts as a foundational supporting pillar. It provides baseline financial safety, gives you a space to apply your skills and achieve some mastery, and most importantly, it respects your emotional battery. It guarantees that when 5 p.m. rolls around, you actually have enough energy left in the tank to live that remaining 60 to 70% of your life.
Now let's look at the grounded reality of economics, capital, and the modern systems we work within.
We've got to apply a healthy dose of cynical optimism here, because we shouldn't pretend that employers are suddenly acting out of pure generosity. Take corporate wellness, for example. The naive view is that bosses just deeply care about our mental health. But the grounded reality, employee burnout costs the global economy trillions in lost productivity and turnover. Corporations are investing in wellness as a form of financial risk management. They want to protect their profit margins, plain and simple. Same goes for green tech. It's heavily funded now, mostly because scaling has made it cheaper than legacy systems. You see the exact same thing happening in the tech sector. Ethics in big tech isn't driven by some deep moral philosophy. It's entirely about preventing multi-billion-dollar legal disasters. Capital adapts not because it suddenly grew a conscience, but because the financial penalty for breaking the rules or deploying reckless systems is just astronomically higher than the cost of hiring human oversight and ethics teams.
Look at how this gets baked into concrete law with something like the EU AI Act. It uses a super strict risk-based framework. Under unacceptable risk, they outright ban things like algorithmic emotion recognition at work. And regulations like this penalize non-compliance with massive fines. We're talking up to 7% of global turnover. This legally forces big tech to maintain transparency and actively stops algorithms from secretly managing or worse, tyrannizing workers.
So, what's the big takeaway from this economic reality check? The world is changing because the math shifted. You literally don't need to hold your breath for corporate goodwill to find a great job today. You just need to position yourself where your uniquely human skills, things like empathy, complex critical thinking, and strategy, are financially valued by the market.
All right, let's move into the practical solutions, establishing strong boundaries and finding your third places.
Now that we know how this system actually works, let's get actionable. Think about the stark contrast between two mindsets. On one hand, you have the treadmill runner, grinding out 60-plus-hour weeks, their identity entirely fused to their corporate status, and their energy battery constantly flashing 0%. On the other hand, you have the good enough worker.
They maintain ironclad 5 p.m. boundaries, they derive meaning from their community, and because of that, they have high daily resilience. Satisfaction is rarely about your tax bracket, guys. It's almost entirely about how fiercely you protect your mind and your energy for your off hours.
To actually become that good enough worker, you really need to understand the concept of spatial frameworks. Your first place is home, right? That's where family expectations and domestic roles live. Your second place is work, where your corporate titles and performance metrics live. But to anchor your identity outside of the grind of capitalism, you desperately need a third place. This is a totally neutral space with zero titles and absolutely zero performance pressure.
So what does a third place actually look like in the real world? It could literally be anything. A local run club, the public library, a community garden, maybe a weekly board game group. These are spaces that allow you to just step back, drop the job title, drop the family roles, and connect with humanity as just you. It's completely separate from your salary, which ensures that when work inevitably gets stressful, your life still has a strong, joyful foundation everywhere else.
Which brings us to the wrap-up: designing your life first and your job second.
There's a simple idea that perfectly captures the core of everything we've been talking about today. A paycheck buys lifestyle, but it doesn't buy meaning. We have to remember that a job is merely a vehicle. It's meant to fund your life, provide you with stability, and enable your passions outside of the office. It is not the final destination itself.
So here is your playbook. Start building your daily routines around these core principles. First off, stop waiting for that next promotion to finally start enjoying your life. Second, make the shift from goal living, constantly chasing the next milestone, to systems living, where you find real satisfaction in your daily routines. Third, start treating your emotional energy, not just your time, as your most vital currency. And finally, go out there and find your third place. Let your job serve your life, rather than letting it consume you.
I want to leave you with one final thought to really evaluate your own life's architecture. Ask yourself, where do you go when you aren't at home and you aren't at work? If you don't have an answer to that right now, then that is your very next mission. Find that space where you can just be yourself. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to unpack the ideas that shape our world.